Good morning. How's it going?
Good. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good.
Okay. Introduce yourselves. You guys are new to the camera.
Hello, I'm
Hello.
Adrian.
What are your names?
I'm Adrian.
And I'm
Say it again.
Enrique.
Enrique?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Hello.
So what are we doing this morning?
We just watched the video of the House of Representatives, right?
Yep.
What were some of the things that surprised us about what Hargrove was saying?
Just like that, he wanted to feed, he thought it was a good idea to feed kids from the trash.
Right. Kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking that someone would suggest that that would be an appropriate way to treat children.
Yeah.
What else did he say about giving food to people who are hungry?
Just basically to like the people who are going through obesity, kind of.
Right. Right. We've heard that in years past. Remember, this is not the first time this issue has come up in the legislature. They've been working on iterations of this for some years now, and some of the counter arguments we hear are just that, right? That that somehow kids would be double dipping, right? And that they're worried about obesity and whatnot. And of course, we don't hear those same arguments applied to affluent kids, right? So does it strike you that that's a fair argument that we should not do breakfast after the bell because of obesity?
No.
Right, totally. What else did you guys hear? Did you just watch Mark Hargrove, or did you watch some of the other representatives comment on the bill?
We just got the video this morning, so we only had about 10 minutes to click through it.
Okay.
So we mostly just watched Hargrove. We saw a little bit about, I don't remember what his name is. We heard a little bit from a couple other people, but I don't remember their names.
Okay. Did you guys have questions this morning? Or I was thinking one of the things that we can do is, when was the last time you checked the bill tracker, the bill status?
All right.
Where's our bill right now, as far as you guys know?
The Senate.
Yeah.
Where in the Senate?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So let's check on the bill status this morning, and then you'll have to remind me. Did we also talk about some homework assignments about emailing committee members?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me how that went.
It went pretty well. The whole class wrote an email to
At least two
emails to some senators. Yeah.
Great. And what was your message?
What?
What was your message to those senators?
Basically just how we felt on the breakfast after the bill or whatever.
Terrific. I'm so glad you guys did that. And let me just stop for a second and say, I know a lot of the stuff that we do, right, in our schoolwork and our life is sort of hypothetical. What if situations? How could we maybe weigh in? How can we sort of practice or learn about things? When you guys are sending emails to legislators saying, we support this bill, please move this bill, that is real world advocacy. That is you guys having your voice heard. That's you guys making a difference. That's you guys taking tangible steps to influence the civic process. This is not a test. This is not a drill. That is you guys actually weighing in and making positive social change. So know that and celebrate that amongst yourself. That's a big deal. And the more people that weigh in on matters like this, the more pressure there is and the more movement stuff like this happens. And remember, even if it doesn't happen this year, right? Even if the farthest this bill gets is it gets out of the Senate K-12 committee, and let's say, it doesn't get much farther, it builds momentum for years to come, right? We know throughout history, right, with a lot of social justice movements, right, sometimes things take a lifetime. Sometimes things happen in 1 year, sometimes it takes many years, right? So we call that incremental progress. And we could get into a whole conversation about, the benefits of incrementalism, incremental process. But the thing I want to say to you guys is thank you, because you weighed in, you're having your voice heard, and that matters. It matters for today. It matters from a year from now. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys remember which senators you emailed?
Zeiger. Yeah, Zeiger.
Right on. And he's the chair, right? So we know he has a lot of influence in terms of setting the agenda for what moves and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to stop talking. Believe it or not, it's possible. What questions do you guys have?
One of our questions is, what happens if the bill does not make it out the Senate?
Yep. So we've talked about this. What do we think would happen?
It dies.
Yep. Yeah. So it wouldn't move any farther this year. Mm-hmm. So let's should we just take a quick glance together at the bill status so we can see what the latest is?
Why not? Why not?
I have it open on my computer already.
Okay, I can bring it up on the screen if that's helpful, and so we can look at it together. Or do you want to?
Well, let's do that. That's a good idea.
Brett, would you mind queuing that up? Remind me of the bill number again, guys.
1508.
1508.
I just seen her type it earlier. But I remember from last week too. Like,
Yeah.
All right.
Bill status. So while we're bringing this up, any other comments or things you guys did this week, or questions you have for me, or?
No.
Did we go over the timeline of when bills need to make it out of each of their respective committees?
yeah, there's about 6 days left.
Bingo, there you go. You answered the question before I even asked. So let's scroll down. So can you guys see this? Is this shared on the screen here, this bill status?
See.
Yeah.
You see it? Okay, so let's look at it again. Alrighty, so if we go down a little farther and actually go up for a second, this is a cool new feature they have this year. See this box where it says bill status at a glance. So you can actually see, I'm a big visual learner. I like pictures and visuals. You can see it says, where is it in the process? Do you guys see that right there?
Yeah.
Right? So in the House, in that first line, it's been introduced. We know that. In committee, yep. Is it on the floor calendar? That means, is it eligible to go to the floor? Yes, it was on the floor calendar. Did it pass the chamber in the House? Yes, it did. So then we go over to the Senate. It's been introduced, and then it's in committee, right? So that open dot, that open circle, Brett, could you circle that? Right, means it's in committee, and I assume the filled in dot means it's passed through. So just a cool thing. And then at the bottom, it says after passage, right? So if it goes through the Senate steps, did it pass the legislature? Is it on the governor's desk? Did the governor act on it? And then the last bubble or dot is session into law. So that's just a cool new feature. Always giving props to the people who are innovating with the website. So let's scroll down. So here we have our bill history. So let's see. So what's the last action we see? Keep going in the Senate. Okay, so the last thing we have is a public hearing in the Senate Committee on Early Learning and K-12 Education on March 22nd, which I think was 2 days ago. So it was heard on Tuesday, which is great. So now we have until, what did you say, next week until to get it voted out of committee, right?
The 29th.
Yep. So one of the things you guys could do is watch. Sorry, this just in. The prime sponsor of the bill is actually on her way over right now to come talk to you guys. So that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we have until the 29th to make sure that it moves out of committee. So what might be a good act? I mean, you guys already sent emails. That's great. If you want to send another and say, when did you guys send those emails? Remind me. Was it last week?
Yeah.
Or was it earlier this week?
Only day I came.
Yeah, it's Monday.
It was last week, wasn't it? Or was it this week?
It was Monday.
It was Monday. Cool.
Yeah.
So that's great. And it sounds like, you had your voice heard and they did hear the bill. Now this is the key part. They've got to choose to move it out of committee before that deadline, right? So step by step. So if you wanted to weigh in again, or you wanted to try a different kind of advocacy, you can always make phone calls and leave messages. So, you know, if you guys wanted to, there's a hotline number that you can call, and what it will do is it will direct you to a legislator. So what I would actually recommend that you do is call Senator Zeiger's office and say, you know, you can each make a call and you can each say, you know, we sent you emails. Thank you so much for holding a hearing on this bill. We know that you have until the 29th to move it out of committee. We really support this bill, and please move it out of committee, right? So you can mix it up, send some emails, make some calls. But I think that would be great. So yeah, any other questions?
I kind of heard you say you said we could watch something, but you like.
Oh yes, I'm sorry, I didn't finish my thought. So let's go back to that bill, to the bill page. So these bill pages are awesome because it's one-stop shopping. So if we scroll all the way down pretty much to the bottom, see it says available documents, and that's where you get your bill reports. That far right column there that says bill reports, that's the best sort of cheat sheet that tells you what changes to the bill and what affects. The bill documents is just the text, which can get pretty complicated, but those bill reports are nice. So if you scroll down, the fiscal note is how much it costs. Those are pretty complicated documents. Amendments, those are the amendments that were issued at different points on the floor. And then this is the key. So if you go down, scroll down a little bit, Brett. So the available videos, okay? This tells you, this will send you to the various videos that you can watch. Now, they don't put the House floor video on this page, which is a little bit disappointing. You have to go through a slightly different process. But what you can watch here is, see, it says the date, March 21st, Early Learning in K-12 Education Senate at 1:30. So right there, I would recommend that you watch that video, and you're going to have to, you know, scroll through and find which bill it is. But what you'll get when you watch that is a couple of things. You'll get the staff presentation. So that will give you a verbal overview of what's in the bill, what changes have been made. Then you'll get to see the prime sponsor, Monica Stonier, who's on her way, who's awesome. You'll get to see her speak to her bill, right? And then what you'll get to see is the advocates, right? And I think there were actually some students that may have weighed in on this. You'll get to see them testify why they support it, as well as any of the advocacy groups, right? So like one of the things I do as a lobbyist for my clients is I go in and I say, you know, thank you, Mr. Chair, we support this bill, here's why, or we support this bill, we have some concerns, or we hate this bill, we oppose it. I don't usually say we hate this bill, but you know, we oppose it, and here's why. So you can kind of get a taste of what the different groups and who they represent are saying about the bill. And then the other cool thing is sometimes legislators will ask questions of the people testifying. So, you know, I don't quite understand, a legislator say, I don't quite understand this piece of it. Can you explain it to me? So you can kind of get a read on where the different legislators are at, right? And kind of who's supportive or who has concerns or what questions they have. So I would say for homework this week, call Senator Zeiger, and you can find his office number online. Remember, I always like to say, you catch more flies with honey, right? So be respectful, be polite, right? Nobody likes to be yelled at. So be respectful, be polite, talk about your support. The ask is what, guys? What is our ask of Senator Zeiger's office this week?
What do we want him to do?
Recognize what we have to say, basically.
Yep, and what's our ask? What concrete action do we want him to take?
To pass the bill.
Out of
committee.
That's right. Pass the bill out of committee by the deadline, right?
The deadline.
Yep. And then go ahead and watch that video. And if you want to watch some of the other ones too, the policy committees usually are a little bit more substantive. They've got a little bit more meat to them than the fiscal committees. Then the fiscal committees, people are more interested in talking about like what the cost pieces are, which, you know, sometimes is interesting, but I think the policy, so anything that says education or early learning, as opposed to like appropriations, might be more interesting. So Monica's on her way, and I think let's see. I'm gonna just text her. Hold on. This is real time Olympia stuff. Let me know when you're in Pritchard, and I'll come. Yeah. Okay, so she's on her way. What other questions you guys have?
You sure? Because it's going against. Because don't we want to have lunch? Bring breakfast.
No, it's like, or just that's what do we have something?
We have one more question. It was, do you know when the K-12 committee will be voting on our bill?
Well, that's the thing. It hasn't been scheduled yet. Hold on one second. Go by third house. Go by. Stand outside. Yeah, she's wandering around in the basement somewhere.
Basement.
Yeah, we're in a basement.
Nice.
So yeah, the question of when are they going to be voting on it, it hasn't been scheduled yet. So on that bill tracker, it will say scheduled for executive session. That's the key word when we know that they're going to be taking a vote. Right now, it hasn't been scheduled for executive session. So that's the whole point of you guys weighing in and saying, please schedule this for a vote. Please pass this out of committee. So we're about to have the prime sponsor of the bill join us. She's really cool. But let's think of some questions we want to ask her real quick. What do you want to know of the legislator who prime sponsored this bill? Why she's into it? Why she believes in this?
Yeah, why does she?
Yeah, so that's a question you can ask her in just a second. And then, maybe what opposition she's faced, right?
Yeah. I'll ask her when she gets here.
And she's really cool. So just, it can be a very conversational, low-key conversation. Don't worry, she's down to earth.
Would it be okay if we asked any questions that would kind of be against it?
Yeah, play the devil's advocate a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So you could throw out some of the counter arguments you've heard, like what? So we heard about like obesity, or what else? What else are the counter arguments?
Like our own responsibility as to get to school on time.
That's right. That's right. The personal responsibility, right? Like parents should be in the job of parenting, not the government, right? We hear that. Parents should be in charge of feeding people, right? High school students should be able to take care of themselves, even though we know that this bill would apply to kids as young as kindergarten, right? Elementary school kids and whatnot. But yeah, definitely do that. Can't find her. Oh, man. She's in the Washington room. She's in the Washington room. Do you know where that is?
Yeah, I just know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go up to somewhere.
The White House.
Go up to the what's the bill room called? The Hopper.
I have a lot of room.
Just ask her.
Okay, I'll go get her. She's in the. No, it's okay.
She's gonna go get her.
Oh.
Who's last?
Sounds great.
I got like open background.
So here's some of the other questions she said. So why do you leave?
You didn't say what's up. What's up, bro?
He has a fedora. Nice. I like it.
You guys want one of these?
You want to come up and ask questions?
The fedora.
You'll take candy?
Where's the location that you're at?
Oh, somewhere in Olympia. Why are they in Olympia? Because it's the capital.
I hate like when wires get tangled outside. I didn't know that.
Hello.
Hi.
I don't know. She might not be able to hear us yet.
Wait, what?
There's their own person to put it on her.
So what happens when you're a legislator?
In Olympia. You're like Olympia now.
And then you just attach it.
She's all for it. Tired up for an hour.
So ask.
Want to just introduce yourself? I know you have a limited amount of time.
Sure. So they're all sitting there ready, huh?
Yeah, so we've been
Okay.
talking and they've been
Hi.
tracking.
Hi.
Hello.
I can't hear very well though. So you want me to just introduce myself?
Yeah, just
okay, so
introduce yourself.
so-
and then they've been tracking your bill and they have a
Awesome.
couple questions for you.
yeah, okay. So my name is State Representative Monica Stonier. I represent the 49th Legislative District, which is down in Vancouver, or over in Vancouver from where you're at. And that is as part of the city of Vancouver proper and parts of the county. When I'm not a legislator, I work in a middle school. I'm a teacher. I've been working as a teacher this is my 16th year in the middle school that I've been in. And now I actually have a 12-year-old who's a 6th grader and a 14-year-old who's an 8th grader in that building. So when I'm not here in Olympia, I'm spending a lot of my time with teenagers. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
This is one I just got because of the information you told me. As a teacher, do you see anything like what the bill is about, like at your school?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my school, we actually have a pretty largely student-generated kitchen or food cabinet in the building. Families, staff, parents come and contribute, and we use that pantry to kind of offer some food for folks to take home on the weekends. We have kids that come in all the time that are late to school for a number of reasons. Oftentimes they're taking care of younger siblings. Things might be a little rough at home and getting up in the morning is tough. And when they come to school, if the kitchen is shut down, they are losing access to breakfast or, something that helps them get a good start in the day. And so in my school, I see it happening quite a bit. Of course, there are always teachers with like granola bars and stuff like that in the desk. But in my opinion, we needed to have a systems fix to this issue in our schools. And that's part of why I called it the Washington Kids Ready to Learn Act. Here in Olympia, there's a lot of talk around holding kids accountable for their learning and holding teachers accountable. But it's really tough to do if kids can't think and learn because they're hungry.
Yeah. So does your school participate in that? Do they give kids breakfast after the bell?
Not as a defined program. I mean, sometimes the situation will happen where, we know that that somebody's hungry and they've come late. We'll ask them if they've had something to eat. But again, that comes out of somebody's drawer. It's not a system that has this in place. It's really just on staff that happen to make things available for kids. So this is an effort to try and fix this as a school system.
What do you do as the prime sponsor?
Good question.
Yeah, so as the prime sponsor, my job is to first and foremost kind of be the champion and the voice for the bill. It's also my job to figure out what is the best strategy for the bill. So the bill looked very different at the beginning than it does now, and it had all Democratic sponsors, but ended up leaving the House floor with 90 votes, very strong vote count from the Republicans. And that's because I spent some time in their offices working with them on amendments that they thought would make the bill better. And so now that both sides are supporting it, when we go over to the Senate, there's a better chance of getting both sides of the aisle to support it in the Senate chamber. So my job is to kind of shepherd that work and make sure that all of the advocates kind of know what the plan is. So when people are talking about the bill, they're kind of on the same message so that we don't get too we don't have misconceptions or things that people think the bill does, but it really doesn't do, kind of cloud the work. So my job is just to kind of, I guess, like be a project manager or kind of the lead actor on the bill. Did I answer your question?
Thanks.
Yeah. Why do you believe in this bill?
What opposition have you forced?
Face.
Wait.
Yeah. So the opposition that I've had. Okay. Get me on camera here. So the opposition we had some people who feel that providing food at school takes the accountability off of the families, off of parents to take responsibility for making sure that their kids have food before they go to school. That has been one concern. There has been a concern around whether or not it is the school's responsibility to provide food and what is the role of public education. There's also been some concern around whether or not this is something that we can afford to do right now because we have the other, McCleary obligations and our commitment to funding schools. This isn't actually in that plan yet. So people are very hesitant to add things when we're trying to fund schools as they are right now. So there have been a couple of elements of opposition. There was one part of the bill that was going to cost about $2.5 million a year. And that portion was, we called it removing the co-pays. So if you're in grades 4 through 12 and you have access to free and reduced lunches, it would remove your portion of that. So it would just be free breakfast and lunch for those kids who are living, who qualify for that. And that's quite a bit of money. And I think, that in some cases, it's actually more expensive to collect the copay than it is to just provide food for everybody. But that $2.5 million was, an example of something that we couldn't get support for. So that part came out of the bill, but that's also how we gained a lot of support on the other side of the aisle too. So there's a lot of give and take there, but those are some examples of the opposition.
And just so you know, they watched the floor vote this morning, and we had a conversation about some of the unfortunate comments that were made, but really they've been tracking the bill closely.
So when Representative Hargrove made comments, I sit right across from him on the floor, and so he actually opened with, "I'm almost ready to vote for this bill," and so I don't know if it played out on camera, but I was standing there going, "Come on, Mark, you can do it." I was really trying to encourage him, but probably breaking some decorum rules on the floor too.
And just so you guys know, Monica Stonier, Representative Stonier, literally ran from across campus out of caucus with all of her colleagues, ran down here to be with us today. This is how much she cares about students, how dedicated to the issue is. So she got a very special hall pass to come do this and has to go. So do we have maybe one or two other questions for her really briefly before she has to go back to caucus?
All right. You know how you were saying, back in the day, some kids would qualify for free lunches?
Mm-hmm.
And then why couldn't, they do something where kids had to qualify to get lunch after the bell?
Yeah. So, I think what we're trying to do is just make sure that if kids if there's food in the building, then we need to make sure that it's available throughout the day. And so it's, I think you're bringing up a good point. There's some misconception about what we're actually doing here. We're just asking for food to remain open and available, and to ask that the school maybe implement something like a grab and grow program where they can kind of grab something and eat it in class. The law change that's really important here is that the instructional time is not impacted by eating. So when you take a break to go to the restroom or, go to the office or something, that does not reduce the number of instructional minutes you have. But the way the law is now, your lunch break does not count as instructional time, and you're required to have a certain number of minutes for school. And so what we had to do was change the law so that you could eat breakfast during instructional time, so it wasn't seen as the same as your lunch break. We needed to make sure those things could overlap. I don't know if that answers your question.
And so and we haven't talked about this a ton, but I think if I'm not mistaken, right, the qualifications around that, what you said, Enrique, about the qualifications of low income, right? If you get free and reduced price lunch, you would be able to qualify for for the, what is it, the Every Student Achieves Act?
Right.
Yes. And so, yeah, I think you're right, Enrique. Those same students, right, would qualify for this, but it's the change that Representative Stonier talked about sort of that timing, and the grab and go model is one of them. So.
Yeah, so my bill is silent on who qualifies for free and reduced lunch. So there's no impact on the rules around who qualifies for free and reduced lunch. It's only in the way that kids have access to the food that's at school.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's free.
Go ahead. Sorry, Enrique.
Well, there's questions right here. Do you want to ask one?
One question we have for you is, why do you believe in this bill?
You know, I kind of opened with my introduction describing my work as a teacher, right? Like that's one of the things that is really important to me. There are things they're laughing because they're like, oh yeah. So you know, I'm in school with kids like you all the time, and I have been witness to the things that get in the way of kids learning. And sometimes the curriculum or the classroom environment needs to be a little bit more exciting, a little more relevant, you know, maybe include some things that you actually care about. And that's Capital Classroom is a really good example of that. But sometimes it's just a matter of like whether or not you have access to food at home, whether or not you have a bed to sleep in. Do you know where you're going to be staying that night? I mean, those are real barriers to learning in this state. And you know, as a teacher and a parent, it's a little heartbreaking to be here on campus and not be doing something about it. So.
And do you guys want to tell her what you've been up to in terms of advocacy? They're actually weighing in on your bill. Do you want to tell them what you've been doing and what you're planning on doing?
Monday I was here and we emailed Zeiger's up. Well, we emailed, what's his first name? Zeiger.
Yep.
Zeiger. Yeah, we emailed him just our opinions, all of us as a class.
What you say individually?
Because he's in a key position right now. We need him to actually bring it up for a vote in committee.
Yep.
So good job.
Yep. And then they're going to, this week, putting calls to his office and some of the other offices as well. So we talked about how this is not a test. This is real world advocacy, and that their voices matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was even a comment in the hearing, you know, where Senator Rolfes said, she was looking at the list of people who had signed in, and she said at the beginning of the hearing there'd been 80 or 90 people signed in, and then she said, and now I just refreshed it and there were over 108 people who had signed in support of this bill. So she was like, we can stop now, and I was like, no, we won't be stopping until it's passed. So you guys just keep it up. Great job. Thank you so much for your help on this bill. And when kids are saying it's important, then it's really hard for me to not hold senators accountable for that.
Yeah. So Monica, you have to run, is that right?
I do. They're briefing transportation. So
yeah, absolutely. So you guys want to say thank you to Representative Stonier for joining us in her busy schedule?
Thank you. Thank you for your advocacy and for helping out.
Let's see.
Okay, and we'll just close with a couple words after she goes, but thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
Adios. Fedora man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just go up the stairs.
Talk about what the job is like.
Yeah.
So we have to wrap up here in a couple minutes, but I hope that was a meaningful opportunity for you to talk to her. She's one of the coolest people down here. She's a young mother. She identifies as Latina. You know, she works in schools. She works in a lot of high poverty schools. You know, and I think I look at people like Monica Stonier, and she's really an inspiration to me. She works on progressive policy. She's an elected official, and it reminds me that, you know, people like her can be elected, and that, you know, she's really a role model for me personally to see that.
Oh, she was elected?
Yes, yeah. So she was elected in her district, right? That's how she got here. You know, and last time she ran, it was a pretty close race, but you know, she is one of a number of not only young women, but people of color who have been elected in the legislature and are doing great work, you know. And so I'm reminded that this is a legislature of people who come from all walks of life, right? You have tax attorneys, you have teachers, right? You have moms, you have people who come from all different walks of life. And it reminds me that, you know, any of us really, if we have a good message and we put in the hard work, you know, you too could be sitting in Monica's seat, in Representative Stonier's seat, right? Doing the good work for the people of this state, fighting for good, public policy. And so, you know, I look at Representative Stonier, and she gives me inspiration to keep doing the work that I do. And I hope that you're able to see a little bit of yourselves in her, just like, you know, I can see a little bit of myself in her too as a young woman. So I just it's great to be able to work with somebody and have her on our side fighting for the things that we care about. So we are past time, so we should wrap up. But I think homework this week, number one priority, call Senator Zeiger's office, be respectful, thank him for holding a hearing, and say the next step is to move that bill out of your committee. Tell him why it's important to you. Try to keep it to about a minute. You may actually get to talk to his staff. You may just be leaving a message, but you can find his office number online. If you search for, you might want to write this down. If you search for in Google, just Waledge roster, and it will pull up the members, and you just call his office. The other thing is watch that hearing that happened on Tuesday in the Senate K-12 Education Committee, so you can kind of get a sense of where things are at. Does that sound good? Does that sound doable?
Great.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yep. Here.
Yeah.
Sean,